Hello, and welcome to the Humans of Growth podcast, where we talk about the stories and strategies behind business growth. I'm your host, Allie Hathcock, and today's episode is sponsored by Parison Network, the new way for businesses to find the perfect fit marketing agency. If you are looking for marketing support, but you're tired of searching Google for your next marketing agency, all you have to do is go to parisonnetwork.com and schedule a free consultation, and we will get you hooked up. You can go to parisonnetwork.com to schedule that call. And today's guest is Deepan Mehta, the COO at Invest. Invest is an investment advisory firm that acts as a personal CFO for individuals as well as business owners. So you have both sides of the coin that helps them achieve both financial freedom as well as scale their businesses. Deepan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I introduced the professional side of you, but I would love to hear what's the human side of you.
Oh, for sure. I love spending time with my family, obviously, and then I enjoy working in AI. And my background is I ran a prop trading company for 20 years, right? So I was a proprietary options trader, and we use AI to mine data and be able to make trading strategies. And if we were successful, we would make money. If we weren't, we'd lose money. So essentially, I've still been playing with AI, and I've kind of built an AI platform that I've used to help companies answer the question, what is my toughest problem right now, and how do I solve it with AI? So we solve that problem for them, and then we bring in a platform that they can use to solve that problem and other problems.
I love it. So what got you into AI way back in the day before it became the popular thing that it has become?
Yeah, so when you're in trading or competitive business, right? Obviously, you need to get some sort of competitive advantage, and so there's so many different things you can do. Whether it's improve speed of your data coming to you, but you also want to be able to analyze your data better and analyze a lot of data in a quick and efficient way. And so neural networks and AI are just sort of the ideal sort of solution. And a lot of firms that use those things, they weren't really sharing them with everybody, right? So we were like, this is kind of our little secret. But now it's kind of like the rest of the world is sort of hopping on the ship, which is cool.
Yeah, it's definitely not your own little secret anymore.
Yes.
Really. So from what I've seen from you, from your bio, from LinkedIn, it looks like you have scaled multiple ventures and built some of your own companies. I would love for you to take us back to maybe one of the first companies you worked with. What was the spark, the insight that led you to build that first company?
Sure. Yeah. So the biggest thing that I think about when I think about like companies, and sort of the motivation behind it, I want to help people, right? I want to help do something that's unique and then can create value for a number of people. Now, nobody would think like an options trading business could create value for somebody other than yourself. But I believe there is value because there's a lot of techniques and technology that we produce that could actually be used for a lot of other things, which later in my life I did. And I also think that there is a certain sort of calling that you have. So I've always had a calling where I've wanted to contribute, and whether it's after becoming successful, delivering that contribution to others, and whether it's my family or other families or needy. I've always wanted to like sort of contribute in that way, and being successful and scaling has helped me do that.
I love that. With what your first trading companies, what was the conviction that you had to kind of innovate in a space that hadn't been tested?
Yes. So when I started trading, I was on the floor, right? So we were doing signals and all of the things that you recall floors do, and then we started moving electronically. So there was in the pit that I was in the S&P 500 index option pit, there was like 24,000 contracts traded in a given day. But over time, it's now billions of contracts that are traded, right? So what you've had is like everything has moved with technology. My background was in computer science and mathematics. I studied mathematics at the University of Chicago and computer science at Boston University, and so I've been able to sort of harness the technology and be able to implement it in a space where not that much technology was existed. So I was one of the first to trade options electronically and then be able to take advantage of arbitrage between different pits, with the electronic market. So that was really how it got all started.
I love that. What was like the decision making process behind making that shift?
Yeah, so the decision making process, I mean, I think is when you're youthful and you know something that like in an industry where there isn't that in there. So the decision making process, like how do I build a business that's a technology firm versus a business that's a trading firm, right? So how do I transition what I am doing to basically leverage the innovation that's happening in the world? And I think that's been always sort of the calling that I've had in all my different endeavors is like how do we take what I do and make it more innovative.
I love it. And it's interesting because to some degree, it's like, yeah, you're staying in the same industry ish, but you're also shifting to tech in a
Yes,
way that hasn't been done. And I think that what I see with businesses is the ones that it's like you stay in your industry to some degree, but you innovate it in a way that pulls in another industry. That's where I see the opportunity for growth and scale because you're to some degree you are creating your own category.
that's right. That's right. I mean, I think that's kind of what we see in the advisory space as well right now with Invest, which is the current company that I'm with. We are becoming a technology company, right? We're slowly sort of moving in that direction, whereas most other firms are sort of family practices. They're sort of individuals working with clients. We want to deliver clients opportunities and capabilities that simple advisor could not. We want to give them a whole host of other ways to really get closer to financial freedom and build their wealth in a scale versus when the advisor decides to call you and tell you what needs you need. So like we want to do it in a very systematic, efficient way that gives them the best overall outcome. And that's really where I take a lot of sort of value and sort of motivation in.
Yeah, I love it. It's interesting with like service-based businesses, whether it's advisory or pick your different vertical, to some degree, they almost seem a little bit resistant to change. Especially with tech, with AI, of like we see them integrating maybe AI within their marketing, but within integrating it into their entire business, we don't. I haven't been seeing that happen consistently.
Yes.
What have you seen? Because you guys are clearly integrating AI, integrating technology into what you guys do
Yes.
pretty dang well from what it seems. Where do you see kind of the friction happening with other companies in your space and not as to like what do you think is holding them back from adding the tech
Yeah.
piece and adding
That's
the AI
that's a
piece?
great question. So a lot of times companies know what to do, right?
Yep.
But they don't know the how, right? So I've seen it in a number of organizations where they're like, yeah, we need to get AI to do this for us and this is just the biggest pain point that I have, and I can't do it. And then you have sort of teams working in silos trying to solve these problems, but they never get to the right solution because they're not working on a broader scale, in bolding all the employees to come together to use this.
Yep.
So it's the how. So what I feel believe is like the how takes the years of experience, the training, the understanding of what these models are capable of doing, what they're not capable of doing, and also understanding that there is a certain sort of motivation behind some of these companies where they're not working in your best interest, right? So you have to make sure you're protecting your data. You have to make sure that you're sort of giving yourself an environment where you can have governance and safety as well as getting the how done, right? So I think there's the friction comes in several ways. One, you don't know how to do it. Number two, you may know how to do it, but you don't do it safely and securely, and it may create a lot of risk for your firm. So, and that's where I think like I can really contribute in helping these firms do that. You know.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting point you bring up, because with AI and how you type something into AI and now it's to some degree no longer yours.
Yes.
How do you leverage AI in a way that is data compliant and
That's a
does
great
risk
question as well.
mitigation? Because there are options within AI to turn it off so that that information theoretically cannot be seen to every other AI out there, which really, if I typed in something to AI that was personal, like my healthcare information, and you searched what's Allie's healthcare information, it's not going to give you that.
Right.
But to some degree, all the inputs are working together. And so then there comes the question of like, how do we protect our data? How do we protect our IP when we're putting stuff into ChatGPT or Perplexity or Anthropic, you name it?
Yes.
Is I think that to some degree scares people, and I don't know if it's a question many people, if any, have answers to
Yeah.
right yet.
Yeah, so I mean, some of those systems they have those, hey, you turn off the, data, hey, don't like it's basically framed in a way that makes you feel bad about turning it off. Like, yeah, don't
Mhm.
turn off train like making this product better. Like here's the way we're helping you make the product better. If you turn this off, the product can't be better for you, right? That's how they frame it. So a lot of people like just say leave that on. Like, yeah, I'd love to have the product be better, but they don't understand like that they when you put your data in there, it's actually like taking your data, right? Because that's how the product's getting better. It's their data flywheel, right? So the way so I have a platform that I've built. It's called Super Amplify, and essentially the way we work with data there is it resides on your own database and your own vector database. So what
Okay.
instead of the data being in the model or in its own sort of you uploading the file to the model, you're building your own sort of data warehouse, a data lake
Yep.
where it has all of your things in there. And so the model and so you have access to all the models and all of your data. And when you ask questions and you want to build agents and you want to have assistants, you essentially are using your data with those models, but you're not actually giving the models your data, right? So that's the fundamental engineering thing that I've kind of tried to create to protect you from ever like even though that they say that they're not going to use your data, like what happens if they do, right?
Yep.
And there goes your entire data flywheel, right? So like let's not ever give them our data, like let's not ever give it to them, and then you protect it. And in a lot of cases, like the data flywheels that these large models are creating are can't get better unless they use your data. So they're ultimately going to get to a wall. And so they haven't really hit it because we're all across the world just throwing things
We're
in.
just giving them information nonstop.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, it's interesting. I was reading an article, I don't know where it was, with AI because of legal compliance that like OpenAI and Anthropic and Perplexity as like bigger entities, like they, and I haven't read delved into this as much, you probably maybe know more, is it's they are still keeping your data though. They're
oh
not
yeah,
sharing it, but they're still keeping it, which I think for advisory firms, whether it's financial or legal, it enters into a little bit of gray area
yeah.
because, okay, well, you get sued, your client gets sued. Can the federal courts now go to OpenAI and subpoena everything that you typed into ChatGPT or pick your model?
Yes. Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. They keep it, and so one of the things that like I want to do, what that I do is like each firm has their own API keys that they
Mhm.
control and not the vendor, right? Like so, if your information is in ChatGPT or OpenAI, then that's your API key and not us. We don't have that API key, right? Like
That's
so,
smart.
if you ever decide to stop working with our platform, we get rid of that API key, and then on top of that, don't ever give them your data, right? You don't ever give them your data. It's in your space. So when yeah, they are keeping your data. In a regulatory environment, you need to have your data for 7 years. Like, for example, in an advisory firm, you have to show every prompt that somebody did and what they got, and if they were working with clients, that all that data is regulatory books and records data. The platform does keep all your data, but it keeps it in your system, in your database, and not in somebody else's database, which is the risk, right? And that there could be some group inside of these organizations that might be using it in a way that they don't think is nefarious, but could ultimately hurt you. So you have to be very, very careful with that.
Yeah, and that's where it's helpful with like all these AI companies if they're for the most part just building a wrapper around your own APIs
Yes.
of like here's the playground, but to some degree you're using your own sand.
Yes, that's right.
And that way it protects you guys, it protects them, it ensures all compliance boxes get checked for
Yes.
the most part, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
So going back to scaling using leveraging tech and AI, we talked a little bit earlier about like business owners, founders know a lot of times like what they need to do and they get lost in the how.
Yes.
Which for that can be for 1,000 different reasons. What do you see most people struggling to understand when it comes to like operational scaling? Like what's
Yes.
actually holding them back?
Yeah, so it's the lack of transparency and knowledge across your enterprise of what needs to get done, right? So like in a lot of cases, like there's processes that you have in your company, and different departments are following those processes, and maybe they've got them documented and the other departments have them documented, but there's no prioritization of where all the bottlenecks are, right? So what one of the things that I have done in the platform that I've built is that we have the ability to list all your processes and all your departments, and then go in through and look at the process details and say, hey, this step of the process takes 10 minutes. It's done twice a month. And so like you're kind of doing an inventory of your entire business to understand everything that you do,
Yep.
right? And then you find like, hey, these are some of the bottlenecks, and these are the most painful things that we're doing, and then you sort of prioritize them. But by assigning the time and the number of hours you're spending or the minutes you're spending, you're also like saying, hey, this is how much it costs me to do this, right? So you're really looking at everything from an ROI perspective, like, hey, this particular process costs me, $2,000 to do every week. So in a month, I'm spending $8,000 on this process. In a year, I'm spending, whatever, 96,000 dollars on this. So essentially, you're sort of identifying that, hey, if I was to automate that, I would save $96,000 a year. And so how do I enable that team member to do something more capable, and get them this capability to automate that? Maybe it's going to cost me $5,000 or whatever that is. So that's like, how do we go through and do that across your whole enterprise, so then you can understand where it is that your pain points are, where it is that you're really struggling, and where automation can help, and then we can use the how to do that. But what I see a lot of firms doing is they do the how first. They just start doing something, and then they don't get success, and now they have all this technical debt, which is they spent all this money and they built out all these things, and nobody's using them, and now they're like, okay, we're not going into AI anymore, because we just got front roaded. But you do need to go into AI, but you need to do it very systematically and
Yep.
efficiently, and that's where I feel like that there's a lot of opportunity to do it properly.
Yeah, and that's what I've seen with a lot of businesses. They're creating solutions to problems they don't actually have.
Yes, that's
And I think like, even for myself, a couple of years ago, I sat down and it's like, okay, how much am I spending on each task? Now, how do I equate that to dollars? And you're like, I'm spending how much time doing what and sending invoices, and how do I automate this entire process? And I think businesses get so caught up in people of it that they miss the fact that we can automate this and the people can, it's not that we're firing the people and we're getting, I mean, we can sometimes if necessary, but it's like we need to let people do the things that aren't mundane.
Yes. I mean, and so what you do is just flip that conversation, and you
Yep.
say, all right, so we're going to be moving, and your team members, you tell them, we're going to be moving in an age of abundance. This is you're going to be able to do all the things that you probably hate to do, and we're going to get those done for you. So now what we're going to do is we're going to think strategic, right? Like so how do we like transform the workforce, right? How do we transform that team that was doing that one task all day and all night, right? And how do you transform that into a team that's like sort of identifying opportunities for the company? So like that's a transformation that every company needs to go through, by just as a leadership team, or just picking a project to use AI, and just going with that, and telling everybody like, now use this for AI with this, you're missing out on that whole transformation opportunity for your company, where you're enabling all those people and giving them a future where they're going to be viable and really powerful, versus a future that they're going to be dislocated in, right? So like that transformation that companies do is so critical, it's actually like the most important thing you're probably going to do right now for your company, and I think a lot of people miss that.
Yeah, and I think it's about like how do we change how we view people? Because
Yes.
I think we've kind of grown up in the model over the past 100 years, 200 years of people do people do are slots on the assembly line
Yeah.
for the
Right.
most part.
Yeah.
Going back to the Industrial Revolution, everybody screws on the cap of toothpaste. Now it goes to somebody who puts it in the box. We took that manufacturing model and we applied it to business,
Yes.
to white collar work,
Yes.
and it's worked. But how many people hate their lives?
Yeah.
Because,
Right.
like, if we're honest about it, how many people are hating their lives? And it's really interesting, as I don't want to say the collapse of capitalism is coming, but as we've seen people start to push back on why are we operating the way we are.
Yes.
And I've started to see data about how English peasants had more time off than we do now.
Wow.
And you see, and I've seen statistics and numbers like this kind of consistently over the past year or two, and it's eye-opening of like, we think we just have to work, 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 and now we see tech coming in and we're afraid it's going to take our jobs. But to some degree, it's like, no, it's to free you up so you can have a life again.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Like, and it's switching kind of the mindset to, it's like, we want humans to do the things that only humans can do, because even like the really logical people who like spreadsheets, they're still meant to use like the creative side of your brain.
Yes.
So why can't, let's use automations and AI to do the, as much as possible, like the logical stuff,
Yes.
and let like humans go create and be thought leaders and go innovate and push us forward, and
Yes.
let humans do what only humans can do. Let tech do the rest.
Yes. I mean, humans have taste, right? Humans have, they have insights, they have, ideas, and all of these things that are so powerful, that a lot of times when you're in the rigor of the day-to-day grind, you're not doing those things, and you're
Yep.
not spending quality time with your families a lot of time. And I think what we've seen from the industrial revolution to the internet revolution, and how other revolutions, is that work has actually supposed to get easier, but it's gotten harder. Like it's longer. Like you're still, and that's
Yep.
the growth of the economy. But I do believe that there's a state where, obviously there's like multiple. If you run a Monte Carlo simulation, there could be multiple outcomes here, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
But I see like probability of a utopia where you do sort of have a more enlightened life, right? You have
Yep.
you're sort of living in your particular self, and you're taking care of yourself, and you're doing, maybe you're running your businesses, you're growing, but essentially it's not necessarily all you do, right? And I
Yep.
think there's that's a reality that could be possible, and I think it's something probably highly probable, as long as the machines don't kill us, right? So,
Machines don't kill us first. That would be good. Well, it's interesting because I've started to hear more of the conversation of like universal basic income, and maybe that's the solution, maybe it's not, but it's time to start thinking if tech can replace the entry level jobs, which like to some degree coming out of college, you need the entry level job. Like you're not smart enough to go be the equivalent of like a managing director. Like we're not there yet. But if it can replace I'm going to go type this into a spreadsheet 1,000 times and the mundane sort of I'm creating now a Google Drive folder and now I'm sending this and now I'm doing this, like the mundane sort of stuff, it opens up the opportunity for what happens if everybody gets paid X number of dollars an hour, $100 an hour, they're working 20 hours a week, and suddenly, and this is where it gets interesting and really philosophical, it has the potential, and I'm thinking this through as I'm saying it for like the first time, so bear with me, it has the potential to collapse the entire healthcare system. Because the entire healthcare system is built to a large degree on humans looking at screens all day long, which we know is destroying our health.
Yeah.
You look back and like, yes, there are 1,000 other contributing factors, but what happens when you put people outside for 4 hours a day under sunshine?
Yeah.
They thrive. They have 10 times better mental health than the people who are sitting at a desk, hunched over, looking at a screen, not communicating with people except through email and phone calls, sometimes phone calls. It's a really interesting problem.
It is. It is. Yeah, I mean, it's like like if the healthcare system is falling apart because everyone's more healthy, like that can't be a bad thing, right? Like
the billionaires think it's a terrible thing, but
yeah, because if they're making money on the drugs and the but what I think there's going to be innovation that's going to disrupt them no matter what, right? Like you're gonna have sort of like what we talked about with like these agents are going to be very, very vertically integrated and have very deep knowledge in different industries. So you think about doctors and attorneys, and you talk about different fields. Like there's going to be capabilities that those agents are going to be able to do that maybe they're going to be slightly better than the specialists that we have right now, right? And so there's disruption is going to happen whether you plan for it or you don't, right? Like if the volcano blew, like it's like you didn't plan for that, but it's already blew, right? Like you got to get the hell out of there, So it's something everyone's gonna have to like think about like how this works, and I think governments are really critical. And I'm not trying to talk about regulation is necessary or anything like that, but I believe that there should be some thought being put into this, right? Like how do we build an ecosystem and society for all these people? Because a lot of these young people that are coming out, they're capable of doing things that like the rest of us can't do, right? They've been talking with chat for like the last 4 years, and that's basically maybe 1/3 of their life or something, right? So you've got kids coming out that are going to be so much more capable than the rest of the workforce, right? So what do you do with the workforce that just didn't know any of this, and so there's a displacement that's happening that you really need to account for, and it's a challenge, right? It's definitely a challenge that needs to be thought about.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like the internet was not around when I was a kid. Like it was starting to, but I remember dial-up tones.
Yeah.
And, like, you go ask somebody who's even like 5 years younger than me, do you remember dial-up tones? And they're like, what is that? Like I remember encyclopedias to go find information. And so it's interesting for those of us that are elder millennials and up in the age spectrum of like, we go look at these like 22-year-old guys who probably didn't go to college and they're building like tiny AI empires or tech empires. It's like, how are you doing this? And it's because they have access to resources that we never had.
Yes.
And that's what I have to remind myself is that like the kids of the day, like maybe they're smarter, maybe they're not, who's to say, but they have access to so many more resources than millennials, Gen X, and boomer. Like you go
Yeah.
up to it's like, and it's mind blowing, and it's an interesting. It's cool, but it's also an interesting problem of like, okay, like I'm getting my ego kicked around a little bit right now,
Yeah.
but also you look at like age discrimination, which has always been a thing. It's now just increasing even more because of the way tech has.
Yes.
And companies have to figure out how do we help the deep thinkers, which are the older
Yeah.
folks,
Yes.
integrate AI in a way that is manageable and
Yes.
doable. And that's the because here's the thing: if you can teach the leaders, if you teach director levels and up, who are mid 30s and higher, how to leverage this tech and leverage AI,
Yeah.
those are the people who are going to be unstoppable because they have that level of wisdom
Yes.
already and they
Yes.
have the business acumen that the younger guys are like, we're just chugging along, hope nothing breaks, and
Right.
we'll deal with it as it comes up. And that's where the opportunity is for businesses,
Yes.
is that they can learn how to integrate AI, I think, even into some of like their decision making with upper leadership. And almost you start AI at the top and then you start AI at the bottom with the entry level like automations.
Yes.
You put the two ways together, the middle will work itself out, and that's where a company has the most potential to grow.
Definitely. No, those that's a great point. I mean, I think what one of the things is that when you're younger, you have very little long term memory, right? Like so, I'm gonna think about it
Yep.
as a computer. Like you just see something and that's how you react to the world, right?
Hmm.
And then you do things fast. You do things quickly because
Yep.
you're not disrupted by maybe some of the things that had experience in the past. As you're older, it doesn't mean you're dumber. You just take longer because you've got all of this long term memory to like kind of traverse before
Yep.
you're gonna go out there and like do things. And so I think one of the biggest opportunities is for some of that knowledge that an older wiser person has and demonstrate to that younger person that hey, this is knowledge that can help you do things better, and then maybe take some of that speed that the younger person has and translate that to the older person where they can be more efficient and fast and they don't have to like worry about things that they would if they had to do it the old fashioned way, right? So
Hmm. And
that's
that's where like the concept of like reverse mentorship gets really
yes,
interesting.
yes, that's
Of
awesome.
like this should be two ways. Like it's not always the older teaching the younger, but like how can
Yes,
we pair the older folk up with like the young kids straight out of college and let them help each other.
yes, that's a
Let them
great,
teach
great concept.
others.
Yeah, I love. Have you? Where'd you hear that word, that term, reverse
I've
mentor?
heard it a little bit. Like I've worked with a lot of executive coaches doing content for them, and so I spend a little bit too much time on like Harvard Business Review
Okay.
and Forbes, which is interesting to say the least. But it's something that I've been thinking about because I've mentored a ton of people over the past 20, 30 years or so.
Cool. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so somebody comes, a business owner knows I need to integrate AI into my business. I'm ready to scale. I'm tired of just hiring more people and hoping that solves the problem because eventually, like, hiring people has diminishing returns on scaling. Where do people start?
Yeah, so the way we work, so we essentially what you would do is you would have a meeting with us. We talk to you about what your most difficult problem is that you're trying to solve with AI. We solve that for you, and then so we open up this incredible platform, and then we show you how to put in all of your processes, all of your details and tasks and everything that you do in your entire company, and
Hmm.
then create a process to automate those things that you need to automate in order for your company to take the next level. So we basically take care of the how. We have a training program for all your team members. So we go in and we teach them about AI, and we have a 6 session program that goes through and like teaches that. So it's a pretty incredible experience, and we then helps you go deep and sort of maximize your data flywheel where you're leveraging all of your infrastructure to scale your company, whereas in the past you've just sort of like had a little bit of information.
I love it. So don't do it alone, is what I'm hearing.
That's right. That's right.
That we go faster when we do it together.
That's right.
So I think I have two last questions for you. The
Sure.
first one, what is the question that I haven't asked you that you wish I would ask you? And what's the answer to that? So we'll start
Okay.
there.
So the question that I would love for you to ask me is, you know, what is the most challenging thing that people who sort of uh, work with AI have, right? What's the most challenging thing that they have to deal with, right? And so
Mhm.
so so my answer is the most challenging thing is data integrity, right? So when the way I say it is like, people think data is the fuel for AI. Data is more like water. Like, only 7% of water in the world is usable, right? Because it can be dry. So data is actually, you have vast amounts of data in your company, but only a little bit of it is usable. And so what I would say is that, you need to make sure your data is good, because that's going to drive your data flywheel.
I love that. How do people know if their data is good?
So I
I know
think,
it's a loaded question.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's a great question, because it's essential to have in place data integrity audits, right? So, and it's not a fun thing to do, is audit, right? But
Yep.
essentially, you need to, as part of data entry and data usage, you should implement data audits where you're consistently reviewing the data. And then it's data organization. Like, how do you organize data so that one system knows about it and the other system knows about it without you entering it in like 10 different places, right? So like that data organization and tagging it and those sort of things is also critical to help you leverage AI with it.
Yeah, and that's interesting because I've spent a lot of time thinking about like how do we organize data because it's like we have so many CRM tools available to us.
Oh yeah.
Do they talk well to each other? Not so much.
No.
If somebody finds out how to break that and get an answer to that, that's where there's a lot of money to be made because in my own business, I've run into this problem with a lot of the founders I talk to who run like cold email systems and outbound. They have 1,000 different spreadsheets, but how do we make sure we're not throwing in the same contacts into campaigns again?
Right.
And then as you get bigger, it's like, okay, that was just with like marketing. Now you have it in 7 different departments. How do you make sure all these systems are talking to each other
Yes.
using API calls or Zapier or Make or pick your
Yes.
whatever is going to be the through line?
Yes.
It gets messy fast.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is what's great about the AI models is that they work really well with unstructured data.
Hmm.
So you should be able to, if that's your problem in your business, that
Yeah.
you don't know if the data is correct in all the systems and they're not talking to each other. Like that's a solvable problem, which is nice, right? Like
Yep.
you're not in, and whereas maybe like 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, like that was something we just had to deal with. You just have to go in and change it in every single spreadsheet and do a lot of VLOOKUPs and.
Yep. I remember those days for sure. So with that, looking back over your career, what's the one thing you wish you had known 10, 15, 20 years ago?
Yeah, so I mean, what I think about, the one thing that I knew, it would be related to just you know betting betting on yourself more, right? Like being able
Mhm.
to just sort of believe in what you're doing, and without any doubt, right? Like, when you're younger, you're more sort of like, hey, am I doing the right thing? Do I know what I'm doing? Like, am I, like, it's the whole like imposter syndrome, right? But it's
Yep.
a lot of times, like a lot of like the smartest people in the world and the dumbest people in the world, and sometimes in the same situation, like we don't know everything. So we just gotta try to give it our best shot and like believe in yourself. And that's really good advice. I would give my younger self.
I love it. Is there a specific story that comes up with that?
Well, I always think about things in like trading metaphors. Like, so I mean, I've
Mhm.
obviously like when I was trading, I was always like very risk averse, and I'd like sometimes be like take money off the table, and and that people always tell you like you should take money off the table. That's a good thing to do, right? Like you should be very conservative but when you're young, and and anything I say today is not investment advice, right? Like, disclaimer, but essentially, when you're young, you need to let it ride, right? You need to let when you've got something winning that's doing well, that's whether it's the work that you're doing, whether it's a trade in the market, whatever it is, you should bet on it, and you should bet it and roll it. Don't get risk averse, right? In the middle of a winning situation. So
Ooh,
we
that's
can get
good.
you another 10 years, like it's
Yeah.
just like here you go, like here's your spot, and you got it when you're super young, and you didn't take advantage of it.
Yeah, and that's what I've seen a lot of is like people are winning in business, and then as they get bigger, they start to get more nervous, more careful, which granted they now have people under them and they're
Yes.
responsible for lives, but they become risk adverse to the point that they stymie innovation and then they get left behind and then they're so risk adverse and then their revenue starts declining pretty
Yeah,
quickly.
that's true. That happens.
Yeah. So, Deepan, thank you so much for joining us today and coming on this show. If people want to connect with you further, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can friend me on LinkedIn, or they can send me an email at deepen@superamplify.com. That's my email for my AI opportunity. Or if they're interested in financial advisory, deepen@invest.com is my email there.
I love it. Thank you so much for everyone for tuning in today. And remember, if you are looking for the perfect fit marketing agency, you can schedule a free marketing strategy session over at perrysonnetwork.com. And we will catch you on the next episode of Humans of Growth.
Thank you so much.